I stand too close, I get cut off because I'm taller than you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You guys want... Oh, hi. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Today we're speaking with a best-selling Rita Award-winning author of over 50 novels and a 3-time National Reader's Choice Award winner. She currently lives in the Lake Tahoe area with her husband, kids, pets, and visiting wildlife. She's currently working on contemporary romance series Heartbreaker Bay and Cedar Ridge. Her next release, Nobody But You, comes out in March. Please give a warm welcome to Jill Shalvis.
Hey.
Yay! Okay, you there? You coming through okay, Jill?
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So,
I'm Amitha, and this is
Sarah.
And we will be your moderators today. And we're from the podcast Cardigan Rippers. So we're excited to be here.
Yes. You want to start off with the question?
Sure.
Thrown at you?
Yes, we have lots of questions. Everyone wants to know. So the first one that we thought was, what was the first romance novel you ever read, and did your parents know?
No, they didn't know. I think I was like 18, and I actually was in the library. I used to walk home from school, and I'd stop in the library on the way home. It was about the halfway point. And this was in LA, so it'd be really hot. So I'd sneak into the cool library. I'd open my chemistry book, and I'd sit in the way back. And they had racks of romance novels, the really good ones. The old historicals.
Yeah.
I tucked them into my book. And that was my education. So shall we say? The first one was Kathleen Woodworth. I think it was Shauna.
Oh, that one's bananas.
My horizon.
Is that the one with the food stuff?
That's the one where she goes continent to continent.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah. I was hooked after that.
That's awesome. You started big.
I did start big.
a true bodice ripper.
Yes, definitely. I've seen the cover.
That's what the chemistry book was for.
That's right.
Yeah. So I had a question. I've been reading the Animal Magnetism, Animal Attraction, and a lot of this, they're set in small towns. So do you feel like that you've chosen small town romances over big city romances as a story option? And what about some appeals?
I have written big and small. I stuck in small town for a long time with the Animal series with Sunshine, Idaho. And I did Lucky Harbor, which was a small town on the Pacific West Coast. But I went back, San Francisco with the Heartbreaker Bay series. San Francisco is a city very near and dear to my heart. My oldest daughter was there. And I just feel that my stories are small communities because I write families, friends, sisters, lovers, brothers, whatever. And that's the sense of that small town that I think I give people rather than the actual town itself.
And to include on that small town, a lot of them take place in mountainous areas with lots and lots of snow, so much so that they get trapped where they are. So,
Well, I grew up in a really big town. I grew up in LA. And so when we moved to the mountains, that was kind of a dream come true because small towns were really fantasy for me. So once I actually lived in a small town, I had a lot of fun writing that for a while. And I'll go back and forth, but the sense of community that I always write is still going to be there, whatever the town is.
And I like the sense of community. You can see that a lot in your books. Like if you go to the liquor store or the fast food mart, they're like, oh, you better treat that person well. And, here's some junk food for them. So or they all know each other.
Everybody saw you guys outside the bakery.
That's true.
Yeah.
Everyone knows your business.
In the Heartbreaker Bay series that'll come out starting this summer, the first one's Sweet Little Lies, and it takes place in a rather old, barely renovated building in the Cow Hollow district of downtown, in downtown San Francisco. And so it's this building where you can still get that small town feel. Everyone knows each other. On the bottom floor is going to be stores, and then people live on the upper floor. So you'll get residential, and you'll get the pub and the dog store, so it's going to have that same small town feel in San Francisco.
That would be awesome.
Where everybody knows your name.
That's right.
That's great. Are you snowed in right now?
We have lots of snow. pretty hardy up here in the Sierras. We don't let snow hold us back. I can drive anywhere.
Yeah, I saw your blog that you've been doing a lot of snowshoeing. Looks great.
Yes, we can't walk out in the woods without snowshoes. So, maybe to everyone else we'd be snowed in, but we can still get around.
That's awesome. So do you walk your dogs out in the snow when you're?
Yes. We don't have a choice until the snow melts. Until spring comes, we'll be walking in the snow.
So, do you want to go into tropes? Okay. So, I guess I'm always fascinated with romance novel tropes, which some of them are negative, like Too Stupid to Live, and some of them are positive. There's, plot tropes like arranged marriages. There's, I was thinking about tropes in some of your reading, and we've got the small town, we've got ex-army dudes. So what are some of your favorite romance tropes?
What I'm writing right now is friends to lovers. So I consider that a trope. And
yeah,
I'm having a good time with that one. I don't really do the hidden baby or I haven't done cowboy. I mean, there's some that other people are doing so well that I don't want to touch. What ones were you thinking of in particular?
Just any that you happen to enjoy. I think they're such a big part of the genre that I always like to look at a book and try to pick them out and see what's going on. But I did, definitely saw the friends to lovers. And I feel like the animals are one too. And we actually have a question from San Leandro Public Library about, I enjoy your daily blog. What happened to the Newfoundland dog Bear that your younger daughter was fostering? I think at the time
we did have Bear. We considered him a foster fail because we kept him for a very long time. But we had 3 very large dogs here, and when a family came along that really he fit in so well with their kids, and they didn't have a dog, we let him get adopted. So we're still friends. We still see him. He's still in our lives, but he's not in our house.
Off to a new home.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's open for more fostering. You can't keep them all and still help save animals.
It's Lila's problem from Animal Magnetism.
That's right. That's right. She did that too.
Sure.
So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your writing process and what you go through, like daily, or how you plan out a book, or whatever.
My daily process is I start early because I am ADHD. So if I don't dig in right away, something shiny is going to come along and distract me, and the day is gone before I know it. So I always get up. I have a goal set for myself, certain amount of pages, certain amount of words, whatever it is I need to do that day. And I stay at work until it's done. And sometimes that's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes it's 7 o'clock in the evening, whatever it is. I really like it when it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon because then I have the whole rest of the day to go do fun stuff. So that's my plan. That's how it goes. As for planning a book, that's for me, a very detailed process, and it takes me almost longer to plan the book than it does to write the book. I do detailed outline ahead of time and try to stick to that outline. I never do.
Like an outline?
Yeah, I write and then I break it down chapter by chapter, and I have this roadmap so that when I wake up in the morning, I'm not staring at a blank page. I know what I'm supposed to be writing that day, and it really keeps me on track. However, I don't think I've ever stuck to the outline exactly as I wrote it, ever.
It keeps it from becoming like a formula that you do over, right? It's always changing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just have to go with it, and sometimes I really where did that come from? But it always ends up working out okay.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about the authors that have influenced you?
Well, I've been reading romances now since I was 13, and that was like a century ago. So I am probably heavily influenced by not just romance, by reading in general. I read everything. I'll read the back of a cereal box. I'll read the TV Guide, People Magazine, Us Weekly, Time Magazine. I watch TV incessantly. I see movies. All of this, I feel, is fuel for the process. So I'm influenced by many other things other than just romance. But specifically romance authors, I think early on when I started out with historical, I knew that wasn't going to be my thing, and I moved to contemporary. And Nora Roberts was really the first contemporary that I had read, and I inhaled her backlist at the time, which was a very long time ago. So I can say she's probably had the biggest influence on me.
Yeah, Nora, right?
Yeah.
Nora. So we have a question. We have several questions. One was from Alameda Free Library. It's at what age did you start writing?
Well, I was actually from a very young age, I wrote stories, made stories up for myself, wrote them down. So by the time I was in high school, I was writing short stories, and I went to college as a journalism major at CSUN, Cal State Northridge. And I really thought that that's what I was going to do. I was going to be a journalist in some fashion and write stories, real stories. And every time I would go to do an assignment, I would embellish these stories, and I would say to my teacher, "What is this?" And he'd be like, "Lying." So it turned out I wasn't going to do nonfiction. So that's how I found fiction. I couldn't stop making stuff up.
All right. We also have a question about, did you read or write a lot in grade school? And that's also from Alameda.
I did. I always read and always wrote, always, from a very young age.
Do you have a mentor?
I don't really. When I started writing, I didn't know any other authors. RWA wasn't a thing for me. It was Romance Writers of America, which, now you can go and get all sorts of questions answered and help. And I didn't know any of that. I just started writing on my own. So I really didn't get a mentor. I didn't really meet other authors or become involved in any way until after I was already published.
Was it difficult for you to get published to begin with?
Yes. I mean, this was before self-publishing was really a thing and wasn't really an option. So I wrote my book and I went to the library. Libraries have always been a huge part of my life, by the way. I love libraries, still do. I went to the library and picked up, at the time, it was like this book on all the publishers and their addresses and what they were looking for.
Writer's Market.
Yes, the Writer's Market. Thank you.
Nice.
And it said, I looked up all the, because at that time I'd finally figured out I was writing romance, and I looked up all the romance publishers, and it said, send a query letter and 3 sample chapters of your work. So I'd written this book, so I pulled out 3 sample chapters. I didn't know that it was supposed to be maybe 1, 2, and 3, so I would send like 1 and 10 and 20 chapters to these, and I got rejections all over the place. And I started writing book number 2 and just kept at it. And by the time I was on book number 3, I had sold my first 2.
Awesome.
To Love Swept, as a matter of fact. I don't know if any of you are category readers, but I started at Bantam Love Swept.
I did see that on your blog that it looked like some of your category books had been translated into Japanese comics.
Yes, which was so much fun. Jenga. I wish I had one here. I'd have to go search it out, but it's really interesting to see yourself, in graphic art form.
I was trying to figure out which one it was because the titles are different.
Even I don't know. I just know they're old, like either Temptations or Intimate Moments way back when I was writing category romance. But very exciting. I get these translations from all over the world. It's really exciting.
That one had pictures though, so
I
guess
know,
you
that
could.
was the best. The pictures are the best.
We had a question from Long Beach Public Library. Do you see any of your novels going to the big screen? And I'd add on one would you want to see?
Yes, I would love to see that. That would be so much fun. However, I think something like Lucky Harbor or the Animal series, or especially Heartbreaker Bay, which is coming up, and Cedar Ridge, would make better TV than a movie. And that's hard for me to say because I love the movies, but I just think that limited series would be better than just 1 2-hour show. I think Lucky Harbor would be really great as a TV series.
Do you feel like those long series are kind of comparable to sitcoms where you know all the people in town and you know everyone who's going to show up and you're just wondering what they're up to now?
For me, for sure, that's exactly what I love. I mean, I'm writing to entertain myself, and I'm just thrilled that other people want to come along for the ride. But that's what I do. I pick a place, I put a whole bunch of people in it, and then I just work my way through them all. That's my favorite thing to do.
I feel like readers feel like that too, though, because they keep coming back and saying, well, what about the people from the last book? How's their relationship now?
True.
And they want everyone to have a book.
It's really important for me that when I write, for instance, Lucky Harbor was 12 books. And I always tell people, you could read those books in any order. You don't have to, it's not a 12-book saga. It's 12 short stories that take place in Lucky Harbor. Uh-oh, did I lose you people?
All right.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Oh, yay!
We're back. So you were saying that it's a 12-book series, but you don't have to read them in order?
Right. So you really don't. I mean, you can if that's for your own enjoyment, if you're going to commit yourself to 12 books, but that's a lot. And I don't want readers to see number 6 on the shelf and think, oh, I can't pick that up. They don't run in order necessarily. They're just 12 different love stories that took place in this town. And the people happen to know each other.
Good to know. So we have a couple questions about your research. Do you research your work for your stories from Burlingame Public Library? And from here in our library, what was your favorite topic that you researched?
Firefighters. Was always I've written quite a few firefighters, and they're always the most fun to research.
To go on the track?
No, well, I mean, I would go to the fire station and get to talk to them, and I get to hear their stories, and they just, are true everyday heroes, really, willing to put their lives on the line. That's always interesting to hear their stories and what they've been through, and the funny things that happen. Those are my favorite parts, to hear the anecdotes that go on the job, and then people use those anecdotes and stories. So definitely the firefighters were my favorite.
To add to the vehicles, have you been on a helicopter or small plane? Because those
Yes.
have been mentioned quite a bit in your books too.
Yes. I used to work at an airport, the Ontario Airport in Southern California. But besides that, I've been on many small aircraft, and not that I've ever flown personally. But having worked at the airport, I worked on the private side where the private planes would come in and out. So that was just a thing for me. I always was fascinated by the comings and goings of these people and their planes.
So do you enjoy flying, or
I mean, I don't enjoy flying commercial. I don't know anybody who does, but it is fun to go up there in a private Cessna or whatever and fly around. That's different than traveling and changing planes and cities and going, using it as a taxi to get to destination. I don't enjoy that.
Yeah, that's because then it's work.
Yeah.
So, what about
How about, what is the most positive and negative experience that you have had when you tell people you are a romance author?
Ooh.
Well, I guess the most negative is if you're telling someone who's very literary and who's maybe never bothered to read a romance and is going to judge it by the cover, as the saying goes. I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy having to defend a genre that I feel should stand on its own. The most positive thing is I find the readers of this genre are amazing, and they're wonderful and open and lovely people, and I love meeting the readers and talking to them.
That's true. What?
I don't know. Do you have one?
Okay. This is kind of random, but I guess it's a research question. So since we've been reading the animal series, it takes place outside of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, I grew up around there. So I was like, wow, did you do research around Coeur d'Alene? Did you live in Coeur d'Alene? Or why did you pick that location?
I picked Idaho because I've been there a few times, very briefly, not lived there, not for any extended amount of time. And I just thought it was gorgeous. And I wanted to write a series about rugged, hardworking people that aren't necessarily from, California like I am, aren't big city people. I wanted to write about, it started off with just 3 guys running this animal center, and I wanted them to have land, and I wanted it to be able to be horses and ranching animals as well as domestic animals. So when I looked at this big wide map of the United States, I just kind of settled on Idaho because at the time Colorado was being done, Washington was being done, I'd done California. So it was just a made up place for me. Sunshine is just completely made up. And it's gorgeous there. I loved it there. And it's a place I would love to go live. Just the same thing with Lucky Harbor. I make up these places that I would want to go live. So I would hope the readers feel that way too.
Yeah, I loved it. And it was kind of exciting to see someplace that I knew. So, if you ever go up there, let me know.
I will. I'll look you up.
I'll hook you up with the hot spots.
All right.
So we have a couple of questions here. Do you get to choose the covers for your books from Burlingame Public Library?
No, I don't. That was always a problem for me because sometimes I don't agree with covers.
Oh.
Specifically with Lucky Harbor, I just felt sometimes they were a little too cartoony or the guys looked too young. But I did always like that the branding that Lucky Harbor gave me. The covers were, backgrounds were white, so when you would go into the library or the bookstore, you know, you could easily pick them out. I appreciated that. The Animal Magnetism series, I didn't feel that they were branded across, so you couldn't really tell that they all belonged together. So that was a problem for me. Covers in general are probably really hard because some people want food, some people want fruit, some people want landscape, you know. And that's a question I would love to ask readers. What is it you like to see on the cover of a romance novel?
Anybody in here? Anybody feedback? What do you like to see on the cover? Landscape.
Yeah, I agree. That's nice too. Because, you know, then you can use your imagination for what the people look like. I assume that's the thinking behind that.
I'm just tired of their heads getting chopped off.
Oh,
There's
so
always some
to the body, just the chest, maybe.
I'm okay with chest, but if his head was there too, I'd feel better about it, I guess. Or ladies' heads get chopped off too.
But then you have the problem of if we're telling you what he looks like and maybe that doesn't match your inner description. And I get a lot of letters, you know, that's not how I saw this person. And I'm sure that's frustrating for the reader.
I think it's funny when there are sexy covers and then the book is very tame. And then there's pearls and flowers on the cover and it is not tame at all. And the contradictory covers.
No, flowers mean it's going to be crazy.
That's right.
You can't judge by that. Somebody else here from Alameda Free Library is asking, between books and research, what are your favorite things to do?
Between just those two things?
I guess, but we'd like to know your favorite things to do also.
My favorite things to do are when I'm done writing. I mean, I love writing. It's the best job I could. I mean, I'm uniquely suited for absolutely nothing else, to be honest with you. But you know, I like being done. I like hanging out with the dogs. I like going hiking and snowshoeing. I love reading. I love going to the library just because, even if I read every single book already in the library, I like to just go. I like to go to the movies. I like to travel. Mostly, I like to sit on my couch with my Kindle and read.
So what are you currently reading right now?
I am reading the latest J.D. Robb. Do you guys read her? It's Nora Roberts, but she writes that futuristic, And
Those are awesome.
Awesome. You can never go wrong with that. I'm also rereading the Outlander series in preparation for the season number 2 to come onto TV.
Ooh, people are getting excited about that here.
There's even a coloring book.
There's a coloring book.
I have it.
Yes. Oh, we could do like an art show at this talk.
I need to add that to things I like to do is color. We do that a lot of coloring with me and my daughters.
We enjoy coloring as well. So
yeah, there's a lot of great ones.
There's been a lot of talk about diversity in romance and what role diversity plays, and how sometimes some books are considered diverse and shelved in a different section. And just what role do you feel like diversity plays in romance? And
I think it's really important. I think we don't have enough of it, and I think it should be just it should be a non-issue. It should just be there. It should be on the shelves in romance. It shouldn't even be a topic, but unfortunately it is. I try to do some diversity, but it's also, you know, you have to write what you know, and I don't want to mess up and I don't want to get anything wrong. So I wish that more romance authors who come from different backgrounds were getting their books where they need to be.
It's true, and I think the publishing industry is kind of taking notice of it, or it's a topic. It's a topic for discussion now, which is heartening. And
yes,
you know, there's so many small publishers now and people self-publishing. How do you feel about that? Would you ever self-publish if you were going to write something kind of different from the norm, or if you were like, I'm going to do a new name, new series? Would you self-publish it?
I would absolutely self-publish. I don't have a need right now because I'm still going to write contemporary, and I'm going to write sexy and funny. That's just what I'm going to do. So I might as well keep it under the Jill Shalvis name. But I would self-publish under my name if I came up with a series that was slightly different. If if I was going to write erotica, for instance, I'd still do it under my name, but I would probably self-publish that.
So this sort of, we've talked about it in a roundabout way, but can you talk about why romance is important as a genre?
Oh, let's see, why is it important? Well, because there's just not enough happy endings in the world, for one thing. You can read literary fiction, you can read mystery, you can read all those other genres, and you're not guaranteed a happy ending. I think romance is probably the only genre where you're guaranteed that. And we need a lot more of that than we have.
That's true. I enjoy the happy endings.
I enjoy the happy endings, and I don't like it when people trash on the happy endings.
I don't
It's
either.
like happy. It's like, oh no, they solved the mystery at the end. You should stop reading those. They always solve them. Gosh.
But, I mean, there's always going to be people who complain about genre fiction, whether it's romance or mystery or whatever it is, and then just don't pick it up, right? How easy is that to not buy it?
Do you feel like it's because romance novels are sort of by women for women, that there's like a stigma against them?
I think that stigma is losing steam. At least I hope it is. I think 50 Shades, even though it's not romance and is erotica, opened doors for romance that needed to be opened. And anytime you get people talking about romance, even if it's got the negative or the cynical slant, it's a good thing. Anytime you can get people reading, which is what 50 Shades did, that's a good thing.
It's true. Lots of people.
Kind of, it's their jumping in point. So
yes. And unfortunately, a lot of people mistook that. If they've never read genre, they think that that was romance, which it's not. But as long as it got people reading and talking, I'm good with that.
It's true. I think my mom's hairdresser even gave it to her when she was getting her hair done. And then she's like, my hairdresser gave me this book. I'm like, you can read it.
You can do it. Okay, totally out of the blue question, but I'm curious about this. So your characters often have cravings for junk food. There's a lot of donut eating going on. So what are your top 3 go-to junk foods?
Oh, all of it. I have the appetite of a 12-year-old boy. I cookies, cakes, pies on it. And it's just a thing for me. And in fact, when I first wrote my first Lucky Harbor, the heroine is eating chips as she's driving into town. She's got some chip crumbs on her. And my editor called me after she read that book, and she said, I'm concerned that your heroine has an eating disorder.
Oh, no.
I said, I swear she doesn't. She really doesn't. People can just enjoy that kind of food. That's just what it is.
Chips are delicious.
I know. I know.
That means it's a sign of having a good time when you have chips all over your shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's not politically correct. People are eating healthier now and all that stuff. But it's, for me, it's a source of amusement, so I'm going to use it.
I guess I'm curious though, like if Zombieland happened and you were trying to track down that one thing, your one Twinkie, what would it be? What would you be trying to track down?
Cookies. Cookies are absolutely it for me. And I'm actually not all that picky about what kind of cookie, but if we had to pick the number 1 for me right now, and it changes, it's mint Milanos.
Ooh.
Those are good.
And my second favorite are lemon Oreos.
Ooh.
I didn't know those existed.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
You've been missing out.
You've been missing out.
So we have a question from the library talks. I'm not sure what this. So do your daughters read your books? And if so, what did they say about the steamy scenes?
Well, for a long time, they didn't. Just like you wouldn't let your young children go see a rated R movie, I didn't let my children read my books. I have all daughters. I raised 4 daughters, and not until they were of high school age and reading Twilight and reading their own whatever genre that was my books made available to them. And out of the 4, I have 1 non-reader. She doesn't want to read anything. And then I have 2 non-romance readers. And then I have 1 that likes romance. And yes, she has read my books. And she's old enough now that that's fine. I'm sure it's still embarrassing to her when people point them out to her in the stores. But, any mom is going to embarrass their child, whatever they do. It's her job.
Does the romance reader give you suggestions like, Mom, you should have done this?
No, she really doesn't. And they're all very proud of me. But I think that overall they've had, you'd ask me the question about the negative and the positive of romance. I think that they've probably had more of that than I have.
I'm trying to think so do you ever feel like parts of them are in the books as like side characters or?
I try really hard not to do that. Real life is often more unreal than fiction and than anything I could make up. I really try to stay away from people from putting people into my books, whether I like them or don't like them. And I'm tempted quite a bit, but I have managed to control myself. I think the fun for me is in making the stuff up.
Do you ever have a soundtrack or theme song to go along with the books that you're writing at the time?
Every time I do. When I'm actually physically doing the writing, I can't listen to music with lyrics because I'll stop and sing along. So I have to listen to lyricless stuff. Lately, the book I'm writing now, I've been listening to beach sounds. I like hearing the waves in the background and that kind of stuff. But often I will listen to when I'm walking or hiking, I listen to the radio, and certain lyrics will resonate with me. And so I should actually make playlists for readers for each book is what I should do. Thank you for making me think of that.
Well, I've seen it sometimes in some books that authors will include like a playlist to go with it. And I've always thought, I'm like,
That is kind of cool. I think
sometimes
I should do that.
Sometimes for like the reader, I'll be listening to music and reading the book at the same time. So then it's kind of like making your own playlist. But
yeah,
I'm always curious if authors have them too.
I do.
That's tough. Like no words, no lyrics. I guess it's all classical.
Yeah, for me, I listen to jungle sounds or the beach. Sometimes classical, but sometimes that relaxes me and makes me tired. So that's counterproductive.
So we have a question from San Leandro. Did you always know you wanted to write?
I don't think I always knew I wanted to write fiction. Like I said, I started out in the nonfiction world, and I thought I wanted to report maybe more than write. So it was a very long time coming. In fact, I think I was 30 before I published my first book, which I always tell my daughters, look, you don't have to know what you want to do when you're 18. I didn't figure it out until I was 30 years old.
That's really nice. So maybe this is too early to do you want to tell us, it seems like your blog post, you talk about your pets a lot, and animals are obviously, you're a big animal lover, they're in your books. Do you want to tell us about your pets?
Well, yes, I have Jake, who I call Frat Boy online because he's always just looking for a good time. He's,
I thought that was his name.
He's an 85-pound black lab baby who's 5 years old. And he's just, kind of the love of my life. And then there's our cat, Satan. Actually, her real name is Sadie, but she's kind of evil, so we call her Satan. She's not very nice. She doesn't like anybody. And then there's our fosters that come in and out of our life. So those are temporary, and we do our best to get them really good homes as they need help.
Okay, so now I don't know anything about fostering pets. Do you get them from like the local SPCA and then you just keep them until there's a home for them? How does it work?
My daughter does almost all of that. She works with the San Francisco SPCA, and she takes the infants, so the baby puppies that need to be bottle fed or the kittens, and she keeps them and cares for them until they're of a certain weight that they can be neutered, and then they go up for adoption. So she does all the work.
Okay, I have another blog question. I don't know. This is so I noticed you always have a picture for Wednesday, for Hump Day.
Yes.
The best.
Where do those come from? If you haven't seen Jill's blog, there's always a really attractive man picture on Wednesdays. Where did you have a connection?
A lot of time, talking about research. I spend a lot of time online looking for pictures that are inspiring. A lot since I'm doing this Heartbreaker Bay, I've done a lot of pictures of San Francisco. I'm actually also, I love to take my own pictures, so I have a lot of my own pictures of the city. I go and walk on the streets with my daughter. But also I go through and look for pictures of the characters. And so while I'm doing this, I'll go to Tumblr or Pinterest or Facebook, and I find pictures and I just, save them. Some of them are like my characters, and some are just hot guys. And I think, well, that's my writing inspiration for the day. And why not share it? So I post them to share, why keep all the goodness for myself?
And you get a lot of participation too. I think my most recent favorite was the pug one, and you asked for feedback, and some of the responses were just hilarious.
I like to, a lot of times I'll put a post and ask people to caption the picture that I've taken. And I always get really interesting responses from that too. So it's usually hot guys or animals.
Can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong.
Hands together.
Yeah. Nice,
I mean, if you
Joey.
get the hot guy and the picture and the animals in the same picture, then
That's right.
people really like that.
Trifecta. I was just, So RWA is coming up this year, and are you going to be at
Yes.
RWA?
Yes,
do you-
I'll also be RT.
Romantic times.
Romantic times, yeah.
Times, yeah.
I was just curious how you feel about like romance conferences and how
Survival guide.
but also like how they can help your work or what's important to get done there.
For RT, I've only gone twice, or was it twice? Yeah, twice. And I go because the readers are there, and I really, really love to interact with the readers. I find that to be a lot of fun. And that's a very different atmosphere from RWA, which is Romance Writers of America. So that group isn't necessarily readers, it's a bunch of writers. So, you know, I share what I do workshops sometimes. I'm doing 2 or 3 workshops this year. I think it's in San Diego in July. Are you guys going?
Yes.
Okay. I'll get to meet you. So I give, I try to give back. I try to just be available and do what I can.
Is Romantic
So
Times Conference, sorry, is the Romantic Times Conference the one where I've seen pictures of dudes dressed up like Romans and marching around and taking pictures with fans?
Yeah, I haven't actually seen that happen. So I've considered myself lucky, I guess.
We saw it at RWA a few years ago.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
At
It was
RWA?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, the Legionnaires, they were there. They were there. I have a
It can get crazy because anytime you get 5,000 readers together, and these are hardcore readers, it gets a little crazy, and that can be very tiring. And then RWA is tiring for a different reason because chances are you're meeting your editor while you're there, your editors, and you're doing signings and giving workshops, and so that can be really tiring.
So we have a question from San Leandro Public Library. Do you read cowboy romance? And if so, who? And would you consider writing cowboy?
I would love to write a cowboy romance. I just don't know if I could do it right, do it justice. I've dabbled in it here and there. I've had, a couple of guys in the animal series are ranchers, or veterinarians and have horses. So I feel like I've come close to the line, but I haven't crossed it. I think it's a very specific genre, and I just don't know if I could do it justice. The big cowboy writers that I can think of are Linda Lyle Miller, who I've read and loved. Who else?
Oh gosh, I know. I'm trying to think now too.
Does
Linda Howard? Linda Howard's done a couple, and she's amazing.
Oh,
Lorelai James.
but he wasn't really.
Lorelai James. I've read her.
Yeah.
So I sort of feel like most cowboys are like modern versions of cowboys.
Yes, Lorelai James. She writes really hot ones, for instance, and she's wonderful. And she's really great.
We really enjoyed her work as well.
Yes.
I mean, there's some historical cowboy stuff coming out, but I feel like it's, especially with greater awareness of like atrocities against Native Americans, it's maybe a tougher genre to write historically now.
Yeah, I would think so.
It'd be interesting though to turn it onto the more like a historical romance as opposed to the theme being cowboy and like herding
If I
cattle.
was doing a historical, I would do a Wild West one, and I would place it out here in California and around. No one else but me would probably enjoy it. I would do it, near the gold rush, and I'd, all the history that I know.
I think
that would be awesome.
Great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see myself. I've always thought about that, but I've never actually done it. Maybe someday. Maybe that would be one that I would self-publish because I'm not sure anybody would want to read it.
We read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2.
Totally.
Ooh, I've sold 2.
Right here.
Well, San Francisco has really interesting stories about how it was built and like where it was developed and building buildings on top of the land, and underneath, if you excavate, it's all the artifacts of the leftover, gold rush time period and stuff.
And the Heartbreaker Bay series takes place in Cow Hollow, which is just a district, but Cow Hollow comes from a time where there were cows in San Francisco.
The cow house.
Yeah.
That's hard to imagine. Yeah.
So I have a lot of fun with that. My building has a courtyard, and in the center of the courtyard is this 120-year-old fountain that has a little bit of a legend to it that, if you wish for true love and throw a coin in, you have a chance. And it's come true just enough time over the years that people actually believe that it could happen. So I feel like I've given it some Wild West feel in contemporary times.
Another question is, have you ever read any Amish romances?
I have not ever, but I should.
That's another. They're pretty big. They're actually popular among the Amish as well. Though I think that the covers are wrong. Sometimes their clothes are wrong. And then the Amish ladies get to laugh at it. But
do we have a recommendation of an author to start with?
I'm
trying to go-to is the Beverly Lewis is the go-to.
Yeah.
What do you guys read mostly? Do you read genre romance?
I like science fiction romance and fantasy romance.
I love historicals. I love science fiction. I love paranormal. I like funny.
Funny is good.
Funny. Anything that's funny, I'll read it. So, here's a good one. How do you prefer to read fiction? Ebooks, audiobooks, or paper novels?
Well, I have my Kindle, my beloved Kindle that I carry everywhere, but I still have a fondness for the actual book, so I do both. I also listen to a lot of books on Audible. As I do my hikes or snowshoe or get out there on skis or whatever, I've got a book going in my ear. In fact, that's how I'm reading the J.D. Robb, the latest J.D. Robb. I'm listening to it.
Ooh, audiobooks are so good.
I love it. I really do.
Sometimes it's hard because it's a romance, and you're like, "Oh, what am I hearing right now?" It's easier to hide it in your book. What advice would you give to an aspiring writer? This is from the Library Talks as well.
Don't give up. Just keep honing your craft. You're going to get better each time. And I mean, the best thing you can do is to write, to sit in your chair and write every day and commit to the craft.
That's the same advice Nora Roberts gave.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's nothing more true. I mean, you can't read a book on learning to write. You can't watch TV to learn to write. You actually have to do it.
That's true. So somebody missed the first 3 minutes and would like a summary. But we're talking with Jill Shalvis, and
I don't even know what the first 3 questions were.
She's best-selling reader, award-winning author, and her next release, Nobody But You, is out in March. So I hope EPL. I hope that is the intro, the summary, a short summary. Somebody at San Leandro says our patrons love Rachel Gibson and Kristen Higgins. Do you read any of those authors?
I read both of them. I read everything they write. I love to read funny, and no one does that better than Higgins or Rachel, and also Susan Elizabeth Phillips.
It's true.
I feel like I learned how to be funny from those ladies.
I like definitely. You definitely have funny.
Yes.
I think in the Animal Magnetism, when he asked the kid at the vet clinic when he's having a tantrum and he says, like, "Are you bleeding out?" Then just like, "Stop having a fit." And I was like, "Yep, that's totally true," because I have my kids running around and screaming at the same time.
My totally true moment was when she said she needed to be wearing more deodorant to deal with this. And I was like, oh, I've been there. That was really great. That line spoke to me.
People ask how you learn to be funny, and I just think that real life is funny. So, sweating is funny.
It is funny. And this is, okay, I don't know. We're going to try this. So somebody at San Leandro says, you seem so open and honest. One of our patrons wants to know about your most embarrassing moment in real life or in one of your books.
Well, I have so many embarrassing moments, and I recount them all on Facebook and on my blog. So if you want to read about my moments, they're all there. Go through the archives of my blog. People write me all the time, do these things really happen to you? And I wish I had a family member here to tell you, yes, yes, I walk into walls. Yes, I broke my foot falling off of a curb into a BMW. I mean, just stupid stuff just happens to me. And maybe because I find the funny in everyday life that I can make fun of anything.
So there's not one that's like king. One moment doesn't.
If you wrote into 17 magazine and was like, this is my most embarrassing moment.
Yeah. Oh, Cosmo.
I'm drawing a huge blank right now, but I know something embarrassing just happened recently. Oh, I fell on my ass. Can I say ass? Probably not. I fell on my butt out here. We have all this snow, and we have a really cute UPS driver. He's so cute. And my dog all he wants to do is sniff his crotch. It's so
Oh.
embarrassing. And Jay at Free Frat Boy doesn't sniff anybody else's crotch, just the UPS guy. And I feel so bad. So I go running after the dog who's running after the UPS guy, and I slipped and fell on the ice in front of the cute UPS guy who was running away from me. Like, it doesn't get worse than that.
But you were trying to protect him, and
I was trying to protect him. Not that he was going to ever stop and listen to that. The crazy lady and her dog are outside. Oh my God.
Oh, he should appreciate that.
And then he got stuck trying to get away from us because the street was icy and he was in such a hurry.
Just drop it and run. Drop it and run.
It was the whole thing.
So, on the moment, was it Frat Boy with the UPS driver?
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely Frat Boy. That's such a great name for a dog.
Yeah. Well, he's always looking for a good time. I mean, there's no other nickname that works.
It's 100% pure lab.
It is.
Oh, I don't know. Can we ask this? Is it too personal? Hollywood crush.
Do you have a Hollywood crush?
Who don't I have a Hollywood crush on? If you're following me on my blog or on Facebook, you know I have a crush on all the Chris's. Chris Pratt, Chris Pine, Chris Hemsworth, all of them. I've had a lifelong crush on Matt Damon, and everyone always says, really? But I can't explain that one. It just is what it is.
There's a new Bourne movie coming out, so you can
I
watch.
know. I can't wait. I can't wait. So my husband and I have a thing where we each have a list that we could put 5 people on this list that if those people came knocking on our door, we would be allowed to leave the person for these people at the door. And on my list is Matt Damon and all the Chris's.
That still gives you like a spot. You've got an
I know, I
empty
like
spot.
to leave it open because, people go up and down on the list depending on their movies or TV or whatever.
That's true. It's good to have something open.
If they were all to fight for your affection at your front door, who would be the king victor?
I'd have to give it to Matt Damon. He's been there the longest.
Training.
What about Chris Hemsworth is huge.
I know. It's a problem. I don't really number them from 1 to 5. They're all equal in my book.
Oh, okay. Wow. So, what at the moment? What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite TV show or book or CD?
I watch a lot of TV. I also like paranormal and I like sci-fi. And I'm just starting The Magicians. I don't know if anybody has seen that. It's kind of a brand new series on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's really good. It's kind of like a slightly older Harry Potter.
Oh,
that's really good.
I was wondering if that was
it was come from the books. I don't know if anybody's read the books. So that's a brand new one for me. I love Empire. I love Strike Back, Elementary, Sherlock from BBC. I mean, there's so many. I watch them all. The new one, Lucifer. I don't know if anybody's seen that. That's a good one.
Oh yeah, they made a Lucifer.
Yeah,
Mike Carey. Oh, it's gonna be good. So somebody is curious. If this is too personal, let us know. Is like your own romance in your life inspired anything in your novels?
Like I said before, I really try to keep reality and the fiction separate as I can. However, if you ran into me and my husband, who I call Alpha Man because he is, and he gets this question all the time, are you the inspiration? He will have no problem telling you that, yes, he is the inspiration.
He's not shy. He's not embarrassed. He's
not embarrassed or shy. He's proud of what I do and he loves what I do. But, the reality is it's fiction. It's all fiction. It's fantasy. It's romance. It's happy ending stuff that it's food for the soul. That's how I look at it.
Definitely. Yeah. So we're at about 10 minutes. So if anybody at any other library has questions, now's a good time to start sending them in. Is
there anything you'd like to talk about that we didn't ask you?
Well, the book that I put out December is the second in the Cedar Ridge. And again, you don't have to read them in order, but this one was different for me. It's called My Kind of Wonderful. And it was the first time I wrote a heroine who had been through cancer. And so to me, that I had gone, last 2 years, I've had 3 very close friends go through cancer. And so it was a personal topic for me. And it was, my challenge was I wanted it to be warm and funny and uplifting. And so I'll be curious to see if readers can pick that off.
Well, now we're gonna have to go check that out,
I
like
know.
right now.
We're at a library.
Yeah,
Yes, go get it. My Kind of Wonderful.
that's
And then
great.
let me know what you think.
Yeah. Well, and do you want to talk a little bit about Nobody But You, because that's coming out soon?
Yeah, so in My Kind of Wonderful, the hero is one of twins, and Nobody But You is the other twin brother. So they're related in that way. And in My Kind of Wonderful, the twin brother is missing and hasn't been home in years. And he's in the military, and he's had some tough times, and he just has separated himself from his family, and that bothers the hero of In My Kind of Wonderful. And so I wrote the brother in Nobody But You. So we'll see how that pulls out. We'll have readers like that. I've never written twins before.
There's a lot of like strong bonds between men, and like you're my family. They, you know, kind of like they've created their own families.
Yes, and I've done that a lot where there's been romances, and always it's been a close-knit situation. So here's another thing that I did different, where these brothers have been torn apart and they have to find their way back to each other. And that was new for me too.
And it seems like I know I'm probably missing books in the middle, but there's also a lot of people who are coming out of the Army and discussions about post-traumatic stress disorder. And is that like something, again, I know it's not drawn directly from a person, but is that something you know about in your life? People coming out of the Army, or is it something you researched?
A lot of research. We do have friends, and it just, with contemporary romance, you don't have ghosts. You're not running from a gun, somebody with a gun necessarily. You don't have zombie or apocalypse weighing down on you. You're not in outer space. So you have to find something from the real world to give conflict. And so I often I think of it like a fish tank. You take the fish out of the water, and what's going to happen? And having people come home from the military is a very natural conflict situation. You're out of your own element. You're either being thrown back into the real world that you haven't been in a long time, or you're injured and you're coming back from something. So I do find I'm curious about that a lot, and so I have written about that.
How's the research gone for that? Is it just
talking to people and listening to their stories? I tried to never write a real story, but I just really love to hear people's anecdotes, and the emotions always get to me, so I always try to pull those in. But in Nobody But You, although he is coming back from a traumatic situation, there's still a lot of humor in the fact that his family is very close-knit and bossy and in each other's faces, and they're always, in each other's business. And so that's where I mind the comedy from. This guy coming back, and his sister still will pull his hair, you know what I mean? It's just, to be thrown back into the normal world. I found a lot of fun in that.
Seems like it could be difficult. Yeah, seems like that. Now I really want to read it. That sounds like it's going to be really difficult for him.
That's one thing that I've really enjoyed out of your books is the support system that people have, particularly the men. They have friends, which in a lot of romance novels, people are secluded, whether it's the heroine or the hero. So
I find that difficult. I mean, nobody is really alone an island. And that's where I find that I can mine a lot of the comedy from, is the behind the scenes relationships going on. Especially with brothers or sisters, brothers, they're going to walk into a room and someone's going to push the other one into the refrigerator. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. Right. Sisters are going to walk in, they're going to say, "That's my shirt, take it off." That's the kind of thing that I find interesting and gives characters depth.
Yeah, it's good. Definitely. That's something I think a lot of readers, us included, enjoy very much. So we've got a question from Library Talks. Do you read your Amazon reviews? Ooh.
I try to never read reviews. I mean, I know they're really important. Publishers are always saying, get people to review, and I get that it changes, the way you're ranked, and I really encourage readers to review, and I so appreciate when they do, but they're really hard to read. So,
yeah, protect yourself. Stay safe.
I do.
So, okay.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, but I'm noticing that my battery is going to die. So if it does, I will go run across the house and get the cord and come back. But hopefully I'll last for the next 6 minutes.
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes. We can do it.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, man. I I just want to talk about Northern Idaho because I was so excited.
Yeah, I mean, Sunshine, Idaho is, a really great place, and I had a lot of fun. I didn't close the series, so I can always go back.
And Lucky Harbor's also, it's up north again.
Yes, same thing. I didn't close that series. I mean, I'm starting this new series, The Heartbreaker Bay, but I left everything open. So readers don't have to worry. If there's characters hanging, I'll get to them someday.
It's just so interesting because they're all kind of up north, like the first couple series.
I think you write what you know. So for me, it's the Pacific West. Idaho is a little bit of a stretch for me, but, when I did the research, it wasn't all that different from the Sierras, which is where I live now.
So have you ever had like the wackiest idea? You're like, I could write a book about this, and then you never do?
Well, I think the wackiest idea I've always had is the idea of doing a Western because, Jill Shalvis doing a Western, that'd be weird.
Not that weird.
But no, we had a question about it that night. It's on other people's minds as well. True. They want a Western.
Plus, think of the collection of boots you could describe.
Oh, yeah, really. But I think also something else that always draws me is witches. I think someday I would like to do a series of witches.
I'd like to see that as
That'd
well. Like paranormal or like modern day, like Wiccans. Okay.
Paranormal.
The Witches of Quarterly.
Yes. No, they're in Rathdrum.
Okay.
Sorry, that's real, by the way. Do you consider yourself a women's fiction writer or a romance writer? From San Leandro Public Library.
I don't think you have to label it. I mean, I do both, I think. I think maybe some of my stuff is a little too hot to be fully women's fiction, a little too spicy. But I never just do a guy and a girl, the typical category romance, guy meets girl, guy loses girl, guy gets girl. There's always other characters. And so I do think that gives it a more of a, women's fiction feel.
Well, and I really appreciate that even though there's conflict, everyone's kind of an adult. I mean, they have problems and, they have a temper or they have anger or sadness. But most people are pretty reasonable in your books. Like they're making real decisions for good reasons.
I don't like we were talking about tropes. I guess I don't like the misunderstanding trope. That drives me crazy a little bit.
Yeah.
Something that can be handled with a conversation or whatever. So
just text him, girl. Just text him.
Just do it. Just talk about it. And then the book is over. I don't like that. So I try to not do that.
I think that's one we're seeing less and less as the years go by.
Yes.
It's true.
It's still a new adult though.
So how would you describe the spice level of your books?
Oh, yeah.
I guess I would say PG-17, so not X-rated, but more than R sometimes.
Ooh, that's a good level.
It is.
All right. Well, we've got 2 minutes, and we're running out of. I'm just afraid your battery's gonna go.
Battery's gonna go. Hold on, battery. Does anybody else have a question for me?
Anything? I guess. Once again,
everybody should go out and read My Kind of Wonderful.
Yeah, well, you know what we're gonna do. But also, just everybody remember to check out Nobody But You. It comes out in March. It's the other twin. It's gonna be great.
Well, since it's not here yet, though, you can read the other one first. It came out in December.
Prepare. Oh, I guess I had a fast question about. I noticed you had a few shorter, like novellas, up on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. I do. I have several novellas.
Are those digital only, or do you publish those in a collection?
They are digital only, but some of them have been put in the back of reissues of the early Lucky Harbors. So, like, there's a Lucky Harbor that has book 1 and 2, and one of the Christmas novellas in it. I'm hoping that they put out an edition with just all the novellas. That would be nice.
That sounds like something I think readers would enjoy.
But they're really short. So even if you're not reading on an e-reader, you can still read it on your computer. They're short. They're short stories.
I have to see if the library can get some ebooks.
That's true.
Yes,
we can.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah,
I had a great time.
We had a great time talking to you, and I think everybody got all their questions answered. Had a good time here. So thanks again.
Thank you for having me. I'll talk to you all soon.
All right, thank you. Bye.